Welcome to the Hoya Madness. More Hoya Madness, I should say. More than usual. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Hope everybody's having a great day.
Hello, Kim. Thanks for coming by.
Thursday. Imagine seeing you guys here. Imagine seeing us here on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Wild.
Hi.
Yeah. So, hope everybody's having a good evening, afternoon, wherever you find your time frame.
Yeah. I have to. Hey, Paige. See if this is working. I never seem to make that work for some reason. Trying to make the casting to Instagram work. It never wants to. Hi.
Giving us the business. Hello, hello. Welcome,
Thanks for coming
everybody.
All right.
It's iced tea time.
It's Thursday evening, and we're doing something a little different here at Sleep Tropicals. Thought it'd be fun to do what I'm calling like a Hoya study group or a Hoya book club kind of thing. I love diving into all the science and the nerdy information that is out there about Hoyas, and I know not everybody does, so that might not always be the thing that people want to hear about during our normal Sunday talks and our live streams. So we thought we'd dedicate a separate hour a couple times a month or occasionally when we feel it's relevant to chat with you guys about some interesting information that's been out there in the Hoya world. So hopefully you'll find this stuff interesting as well. If you don't, that's okay. We figure we'll stay here about an hour tonight or about 28% battery, whichever happens first. But we wanted to discuss a little bit most recent journal entry at the Stemma Journal. I don't know if you guys follow that or not, but there is a great Facebook group called Stemma Journal. Used to be a printed publication for years, and now it's mostly digital, where a lot of Hoya advocates, hybriders, things like that really come together and compile information to share with the community as a hobby. I have loved it for a long time, and I've wanted to talk to somebody about it. Okay, good. I hope you guys all enjoy it. So, I have never, however, done any kind of discussion like this before, so it's going to be an interesting trial and error. So hopefully you guys will find something fun in it, and if not, that's okay too. First off, I wanted to give everybody the link. Stemma is amazing, right? If you haven't seen it yet, I posted it in our chat channel, the Growth Diaries. I will post a link here as well. I don't know if you can click on a link here or not, but that is a link to the journal, most recent journal that they just published in June. And the article that we are discussing today is going to be Mark Randall's article on the Hoya sections and the kind of discussion points on how we're classifying Hoyas and if it's still relevant in this day and age, which I found really interesting. Let me pull up my notes. Okay. Absolutely. I'm going to try and tell you more. Oh, thank you. So Hoya as a genus is still a relatively young genus as far as plants go. It's not been widely studied, and it's evolving all of the time. There are a lot of big changes that are happening every few years where they're classifying and reclassifying, finding new species, finding out more about the species that we know. So it's always evolving, and it's hard enough as like a botanist. I do have a handout. I will upload it. So there is a handout in our Hoya handbook that about a talk we gave previously on like the Hoya sections with the nomenclature or the naming of Hoyas. So some of that is relevant to tonight's talk, but I will post a summary of this kind of whole discussion tomorrow in the Growth Diaries over here on Sleep Tropicals too. But if there's points you want me to make sure I include, just shout them out, and I'll make sure I keep them in the notes for you. So as this hobby has kind of exploded in the past 5 or so years, it's really pushed the study of this genus a lot more. People are not only looking for more in the wild, but they're looking closer at the ones that we've kind of grown in cultivation to say, what's going on with these species? Have they been hybridized so much that they are a new species? What can we take away from all this? And have the ways that we've classified them in the past, are they still relevant to today? I was looking back at a lot of the most recent classifications, and they said, just in the past 8 years, there's been 5 major reclassifications of the Hoya genus. And species are coming into that genus, species are being taken out, reclassified. We all know the great Verticillata debacle.
Yeah.
That just happened a few years ago. And it's really interesting. But up until now, and what was relevant about Mark's article that he published, is that the majority of the classifications of Hoya subsections, so the genus is Hoya, and then we have various subsections underneath that. Those subsections have generally been determined and classified by physiological structures. So things like leaf shape, flowers, the pollinaria, where they grow, those type of things. And now they're starting to question, is that the best way to do it, especially with a genus like Hoya, where there's so many variables that can affect those physiological characteristics. We've talked at length with you guys about how light and humidity can make a big difference in leaf shape, the ability to bloom, the color that your plant will bloom.
Yeah. And the color of the bloom.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an interesting thing to stop and say, well, is this the right way to do it? Or now that we have better technology, should we go back and start looking at these species on a genetic level? But at what point have these things been so far hybridized that it will be difficult to actually determine what's a different gene or what's a different section than another? So in Mark's article, he really tried to focus on a few big sections that we all kind of know and love and point out their various defining characteristics, and then kind of take a poke at, like, what should we be doing differently? Are those things actually characteristics of those kind of sections? So he kind of divided them out into a few that I thought were really interesting. He said the Hoya section Hoya, which is one of the main sections, it includes most of the very common Hoya species that we know: Pubicalyx, Carnosa, Fungi, Dasanthia, all those really classic Hoyas. Yeah. I think Sarah would call them.
Yeah. The common Hoyas that you see at the grocery store sometimes.
Yeah. But they have some physiological characteristics that they all group together. So in that subsection of Hoya, they tend to all have very fuzzy, fragrant flowers. They have thick, fleshy leaves. They have clear sap, rotate corollas, and with recurved margins, which I would say is very much what we've experienced here when we grow them. Yeah. Most of them are all native to Southeast Asia and the Himalayas, and most of them are really adaptable to houseplant environments.
Yeah, that makes sense with what I've experienced. Yeah. We love them in the house. Sorry. And we love them with a mouse.
They tend to stand out for their very large leaves and for early blooming. And I would agree with all that. But you can have other species that might fit into a lot of those characteristics that aren't necessarily in that section, like Obovata. Obovata has those same thick, succulent leaves, big fuzzy blooms, but doesn't tend to, grow in those specific habitats. So therefore, I don't know if they have a clear sap or a milky sap. Do you know?
There's a clear sap on Obovata, but it's, a much different stem type. So I wonder if that would be something that they would class differently because of that characteristic.
Yeah.
They grow a much thicker, broad stem, woody stem, and Carnosa types typically are more viney and more thin.
Yeah. So it was just one of the examples he gave in that kind of whole look at the different sections of Hoya. What did you guys take away from that? Did you guys read that article at all? Has anyone had a chance to read it? Was there anything that really jumped out at you as a new section or a new species that you were like, I've never heard that before, I didn't realize these two things were classified together? Anybody? So I thought it was really interesting. Some of the things that I found, like just that picked up out of the article. Reading out the Spardioides group, I didn't know that Spardioides in that whole section, they photosynthesize in their peduncles.
Interesting.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's wild.
I had no idea. It made me. Yeah, I know. I had to kind of go through it all again. I've read it like 4 times, and I still have to like pick it apart and like make notes on it because it's just so interesting to me.
Yeah.
But it was a way of classifying these Hoyas in that they do have that photosynthetic capability in their peduncles. They also tend to produce peduncles that don't stay on the plant. So they produce them only for the time of bloom and tend to drop them.
So they drop them regularly and then regrow.
Yeah, which the first thing I thought of when I heard that was like, how many people have we heard frustrated that their plant blasted those peduncles?
Yeah.
I'm like, what if that was what the plant was supposed to do all along?
Multifloras do it constantly. It's like, oh man, did it do something? Did I do something
wrong?
We're
over here trying to figure out what we did and how we made this plant unhappy. And that very well might be what the plant is supposed to do the whole time.
Yeah.
So they had in this section, now, Hoya Spardioides complex and the Serpens complex, both are considered sections, but not formally, not by science. But in that Spardioides complex, they have Berruensis and Retrosa. And they tend to grow species from hot lowland areas and cooler upland areas, which we've talked a lot about those being alpine species or upper high humidity, cool temperature species.
Yeah.
But I would not have thought lowland hot areas either. But a lot of them are endemic to that spot.
That's interesting.
There. I also said that Spardioides tends to lose all their leaves. Oh, happy birthday.
Oh, fantastic.
Spardioides tends to lose all of its leaves at maturity.
Oh,
I'm like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah, that is wild.
Yeah. Berruensis may retain their leaves, but may skip making them if it's stressed.
Wow. Well, that's interesting.
And then, unlike a lot of other Hoya species, they obviously produce the single or paired flowers versus the big umbosa flowers. So even though they're known as being very finicky, they might be a lot more adaptable than we realize, but they might need more extremes of the spectrum and be less happy in the middle of the spectrum.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's why my Insularis dropped all its leaves.
Maybe.
But then they started coming back.
Yeah.
And then they dropped again. So I don't know. It doesn't seem to be very
But how do you know when to give up on it then, right? Like, I guess that makes you want to.
I would have pulled it from
less.
the tray, and then I saw a new growth all of a sudden down in the cup. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh man, that's reason to hold on, because we'll have to see what happens there. But nothing good happened. Unfortunately, it didn't actually end up panning out. I think it was just a flash in the pan. But again, it's an interesting point that some of these species might blast leaves, might blast peduncles, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're about to die. It might mean something else.
Yeah, well, there was another, question as far as should these species be classified based more on the growth habit or the growth habitat of where they come from. So should we have like higher humidity species or warm temperature species all classified together? And therefore, as hobby growers, would we be able to better understand what they need in our homes and how to classify them? And I think that's a slippery slope because you have, science who's classifying plants for one reason, and they're not necessarily thinking of hobby growing in that, right?
No, they're considering where the plant grows in its native environment and not how you recreate that in your home and how you might keep plants of different native environments happy together. And
while those two things can be helpful for us growing, they may overlap in like species habitat. They may not both serpens and multiflora really like to not get too dry, right? They want to be more humid or more wet in their soil, but they're pretty different plants.
Absolutely.
They like different things, and if you just classified them based on that one thing and then tried to take from that how to grow them, you could probably run into a lot of problems, I would imagine.
Yeah, I've run into many problems trying to deep root water my serpens.
Yeah.
But with the multiflora, they often root quite deeply, and it's not usually a problem unless it stays too wet too long. Then, good draining soil can get quite wet at that point. It's going to be pretty happy. Again, if your soil is heavy, no Hoya is going to like that.
So they also talked about, Mark also talked about, how do you classify them based on vegetation? Can you look at leaves and leaf structures and say these plants are all the same? But you can have very similar species, like say Calistophylla and Finlaysoni, who in some different clones can look very similar to each other, but when they bloom have pretty different flowers, and therefore that's right now what makes them different species. But they have very similar growth habits, they grow in the same areas. Other than those flowers, they could be the same species. So is the flower being encouraged by, something in the environment? And if you did a genetic test, would you find out that they are the same? That's kind of what he was proposing, is that we need to move more towards that kind of genetic classification of it.
Or be more accurate, although parentage can be difficult in these situations, and it could be bringing up more questions than answers if you don't have a pretty serious database of genetic, examples. You have to have something to compare it to. So again, that can be a slippery slope, I think, if you're trying to classify plants in a different way. I do think it would be way more accurate, however, very difficult.
Yeah, you have to start somewhere, right? And then you have to build a database to compare to. And the amount of time and money and energy that would take would be pretty big.
Consider how long it takes for them to classify a Hoya species now.
Yeah.
And based on some pretty simple criteria, we're having a difficulty getting 10 to 12 a year. And for a few years there, it was like 20 years where none got published.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, these last few years, it seems like the last 10 years, there's been quite a lot more published per year. But even that, we're looking at half a dozen or a dozen species being classified in a year. Imagine how the brakes would be pumped if we were having to do DNA testing to classify these plants.
Well, the biggest breakthroughs that have really happened in the past few years have been through that DNA classification, and a lot of it has been moving. There were 8 species, I think it was, in 2022 that were moved out of the Ariostemma genus and into the Hoya genus. So it's not even that so much that plants are getting, like the Hoyas are getting classified better. It's that other things are getting classified as Hoyas, and I feel like they're just dumping on the pile. Yeah. And they're like, good luck, guys.
Like, you guys sorted it out. These are Hoyas now.
No, they're all Hoyas.
Pretty soon we're going to find out that those Ischananthus that we bought, we're going to turn those into Hoyas.
Yeah, when we were first into Hoyas, we more than one time bought a basket of what do they call it, lipstick plant?
Yeah.
Ischananthus, and brought it home only to realize it wasn't a Hoya.
Kind of, what Hoya is this?
What Hoya is that?
Not a Hoya.
Not a Hoya. I don't think we're the only ones that have done that.
Yeah, they look very Hoya-like, and if you're looking at characteristics and features, you might well bring one home and trick yourself into thinking that it's some rare Hoya that you've never seen before. But they look so much like a Hoya that you're just like, it's gotta be. I've not met it before. I've not met this Hoya. So I'll take it home and I'll see. And find out that it's not a Hoya at all.
Yeah. Well, and then you have things like Dischidia, right? That look so similar.
Yes.
Definitely a different genus, but look so similar. And things that are being classified out of Hoya are seeming to move in Dischidia direction.
Yeah.
Oh, they very well could. Hoya Ischananthus, I have to look it up because that will just totally throw me.
Even trickier now. Now they've just thrown a whole wrench in the operation.
AEC, I can never spell it, Ischananthus. Excuse me. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's an interesting family that has some very unique and interesting members.
Yeah.
Got some nice variegated ones and some gorgeous displays of flowers on the Ischananthus.
Yeah.
But it's just a different plant altogether.
Yeah.
So far.
So far. But
that's the point we're making, though. That may end up classified into being a Hoya, and wouldn't that be something if all the while I was right? Oh, that's hilarious.
Compounding all of that craziness is this rampant boom of hybridization of Hoyas as well, right?
Absolutely.
Hoya, well, not the easiest to pollinate, are pretty easy to hybridize comparative to some other species, and therefore we have made a ton of new Hoyas.
And once they're hybridized, they can cultivate and you can propagate them by the thousands
Yeah.
and put them out, and they can be in circulation, and you can have them across the world in a few months. People can have them in Australia.
Well, and not even hybridized by man, but they can easily hybridize in the wild as well.
Absolutely.
Within their own sections, and sometimes not. So it makes it incredibly hard to know if you're finding a new species when you find a new phenotype, or if you're just finding a hybrid of a previous species.
Yeah, you're just finding a very long-range pollinator that's jumping from one region to the next and cross-pollinating Hoyas that have never met before. You could end up with wild hybrids. It happens all the time, but these are the kind of things that make it a little bit more complicated and a little more confusing unless you are actually testing genes in the plant. If you're testing DNA, now there's a way that you can actually come up with a sequence and you know what this plant, where it came from. And then you can start to trace back, or you can start to figure out, what all those things mean. Instead of, here's what this flower looks like, here's what this leaf shape looks like, and here's a vague idea of what the vine sort of grows like. And that's really kind of vague when you think of how Hoyas grow. There's so many that look very, very alike, very similar. It would be nice to be able to put a more definitive finger on all of these no IDs that we've been collecting and all these beautiful plants that we have just a head scratch to wonder what they might be. So it would be nice to have a little bit of extra, firepower to figure that out. That is having that database to check against.
Yeah. Well, there has to be funding for it, right?
Yeah.
We as a hobby have to turn around and support back the science that has started to bring this genus into cultivation and share it with the world. So finding people like Fraser Cook, who we've talked about before, some of the Indonesian and Filipino growers, like helping them and supporting them into cultivating and researching this genus more really helps us as a hobby as well, because it helps us determine where these things came from, what they are, funds the research, and then ultimately also helps us all determine how should we be growing these plants, and how do we take all that information and make the hobby better. And really it's by taking what we've learned and using that towards what can we take from that to make our plants grow better in our environments, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. What else do I have on here? So examples they talked about were things like in the serpent complex, we can look at them and say they are small, mat-forming creepers with thin stems that don't twine. They tend to have widely spaced brown leaves, and they're not always very easy to keep happy, but we can take from that in their natural environment that they like cool, moist, stable areas. They're sensitive to drying, they're sensitive to heat stress, and their flowers, or they're often described as needy or fussy in cultivation, but once you make them happy, like we've shown here, they can be pretty easy to continue to propagate once you've figured out their needs, right?
Yeah. They just have those particular needs. Knowing where they come from is helpful because you know kind of a starting point. What am I shooting for in terms of, like, for example, we grow serpents to start to cultivate and grow healthy roots. We grow them in a high humidity environment, and then we acclimate them afterwards into a lower or ambient humidity. So we need good sturdy roots that can root down into the soil, and then we can maintain the moisture in the soil so that the leaves don't have to stay in such a high humidity environment, but the plant is always maintaining that moisture down into the cup where the roots are.
Beyond,
so that balance. That balance is what helps us to maintain a plant that generally wouldn't be too happy if its only source of moisture was that humidity and it was shallow rooted. You might have a tricky time getting that to, as we have in the past, getting that established and getting that to go.
So beyond finding out how these things grow, and I think that's probably the most important information, it also, having these kind of studies and deeper dives into their genetics would help us classify what we're growing, right? Like figuring out what we have and why.
Yeah.
How often do you think you find yourself in a situation where you're growing two Hoyas that you're like, those are the same, those are pretty similar, even though I bought them under something else?
Yeah. I can point to quite a few examples of things that are hauntingly similar, where if I lost a tag, I would not be able to tell them apart.
What
and
kind of
sometimes, for example, Peninsularis,
we bought that one several
Iskander,
times.
and Parrot Teddy Bear. We bought all three of those species, and I was like, man, I better not lose the tags because these guys look exactly alike.
Yeah.
And that's not uncommon, but that actually turned out to be the case, that they are in fact all the same plant. Later on, we discovered that these are all the same plant, and you're right, you could lose that tag, but you would know that those are all three of those names.
Yeah, the first one I thought of was Ash Bertoni, D70, Bilobata. Like, all those look
very similar.
Crazy similar. Like
Anchoy, throw that in there.
Yeah.
There's quite a few.
So it's like, are they different? You know, we've seen in species like
yeah, exactly.
Again, are they the same? I guess it depends on what you mean by are they the same. Are they the same genes? I think definitely they are. Are they the same expression of the genes?
Yeah.
Probably not, right? Like,
I think it's just a Crimson Queen. In the end, genetically, I think it's just a Crimson Queen that happens to present in a wild way.
Crimson Queen is a clone that, what's his name? The other article in this whole journal is all about the deep dive into that guy. I can't think of his name right now.
Oh, yeah.
The guy we had Michael Graham on to talk about.
Yeah.
But they're all, that is just a Hoya tricolor, right? Hoya carnosa tricolor is the Crimson Queen, the Flamingo, the Purple Pride, any number of other ones. So they're just expressions of the same genes. And do we consider them different species? No. Those ones haven't been classified as different species and are easier to keep separate from a species because they are talked about that way. But when you start thinking of things like Hoya Sunrise or Hoya Rebecca, those are frequently considered, shared as a species, and they're not. They're a clone. They're a cultivar. They're not an actual species.
Right.
A lot of growers have forgotten that. Or
it's been around so long. We've all gotten accustomed to it for so long. It's easy to think of it that way. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to know that these plants are crosses, and that we realize where everything.
It's a blurry line, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make much difference to the average grower, but it makes a difference to the scientist who's studying them behind it all, right?
Absolutely. The scientist who's trying to classify them all and trying to put a label on all these things that is accurate and will stand the test of time. You can see the difficulty that they're up against. This is not an easy study. This is not an easy thing to just, it's this and that's that. They're all Virtus Zapata. Let's walk away. It's not that. However, it might seem like that sometimes.
I think it has to be a personal choice as a grower for what's your motivation in growing. Like, we know that we have a lot of verticillatas that are probably genetically 100% the same, but they look different enough to us that as a grower, it makes us happy to grow them. We enjoy growing them. There's no other purpose for us to do it than we enjoy it. Yeah. If you don't have that motivation, then maybe it's not as important to you to know that.
Gorgeous plants. But this one here is different from that one there, and I can't see going without this one or this one, and I want to share them both with everybody. So that's part of the reason for our business, is being able to share the things that we love and grow, and that's partly why our collection is driven in the direction that it is because the ones that succeed for us, the ones that we have success with and grow really well for us, this is the proving grounds. We don't pamper our plants so that you guys can grow the plants we grow
down the rabbit
easily.
And that's what this. I should rename this. This shouldn't be the Hoya Study Group. It should be the Hoya Rabbit Hole.
Yeah, the Hoya Rabbit Hole.
But yeah, it's really interesting to me. I don't know. I really like thinking about these type of things and saying, is it important? Is it not? I'm a scientist at heart, and I want to say that these things are super important. To know the real facts, to get as much truth out of information as you can is really important. But as a grower, I'm like, it doesn't matter. How many, longtime collectors of Hoya that we've met, old growers who have been growing since the 70s, they're like, that's a Hoya. I have no idea which one. It doesn't matter to me. It's the Hoya that lives in the kitchen corner
And it's my favorite.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what species it is. It brought them joy for 30 years, and they want to share with their family and friends. And
there's something to these plants for each and every one of us.
Yeah.
We each find our thing that brings us in, right? Like I was enamored by the beautiful leaves and the stripy leaves and the splashy leaves and the fuzzy leaves and this and that. And I've chased down all those avenues of all the fuzzy leaves I could find and all the, stripy Finlaysones and jungly looking, rustic, crusty, beauties that you could find. I've gone on down all those avenues. I've also pursued all the flower avenues, shopping for plants based on their flowers and not their leaves at all. Like, in the end, what it really comes down to is the ones that are really easy to grow and very satisfying, very pleasing to enjoy. Those are the ones that I get the most out of, and those are the ones that I want to bring to the market the best.
It's interesting. Stay tuned tomorrow.
Yeah.
I would agree. Ripsalis have been another hole. Yeah. Just when you poked your head above the hole, you're like, fell down that one.
Oh yeah, and we've just recently plunged down.
They are in my heart. I agree.
Pingicula hole.
Oh God, I don't know what I was thinking.
Bought like 10 of those.
12. I bought 12 Pingiculas in one night because I lost my mind.
I have some Pingicula life support items in our Amazon cart right now, so we support these guys. There seems to be an emergency.
It wasn't my fault.
Our hands.
It was Catherine's fault.
Right? Too funny.
I agree, Catherine.
They're so cool.
There's just so much enjoyment in having these plants. Like, I don't really care what they're called, and we all grow for different reasons. Like, Caleb gets the most joy right out of the ones that are hardy and are will live well and thrive in his care. And I really like finding things that are just very unique and have a standout feature, a fuzzy back or a really nice margin or something I'm like, ooh, I don't have that yet. I like collecting the thing I don't have.
Pink splash.
Oh, and the flowers, absolutely. Good luck with getting obsessed with the pinks. I love having different leaves. I 100% love that too, Christina. Like, knowing that I've never had this shape or this color before, it's just really, really fun to me.
I like the big, pillowy, splashy leaves that are just, you just dive in. They're so big and beautiful, and I can't get enough of it. Walking around and seeing those big, beautiful plants like that, it just makes my day. And then I get to chop them up and make them into more beautiful plants so that you guys can enjoy them too. Like, that is a good time for me. I enjoy doing that. Today I was cutting up a whole bunch of stuff. And so we're going to have lots of good stuff coming. I just did nearly a full turnover on the prop boxes. So I pulled 5 trays worth of plants. So lots of good stuff coming. And lots more.
Guess what he cut today?
Very soon.
Our melon.
Yeah, I did.
Well, Kim. Okay, so this is another rabbit hole I could fall down for a minute. Undulata. You know how much we love Undulata. And how different our clone can seem from other clones, and we've bought several. And then when you take Undulata and you put it next to some of the Mitrata clones, some of the Mitrata clones look way over here, and some of the Undulata clones look way over here, and then in the middle, they look really similar, right? There are some clones that I'm like, crossover. I don't know which one you are.
Yeah, and I can pull out a Mitrata right now that looks very Undulata-esque.
Okay.
You want me to see it?
Yeah, absolutely we want to see it. Who wouldn't? Right? So, like how, again, that's another point where genetically, if they told me they were the same, would it change that I bought them both or that I wanted them both? Probably not. I think that's where collector outweighs scientist, right? If I was only collecting for science, I'd be like, I already have that one. Check. Name off my list. Of course we want to see it. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know why you asked. Of course we want to see it. Oh, that 100. Yeah, I know which one you have now. That 100% looks like the Undulata.
Trick even you. If I told you this was an Undulata, you'd believe me.
I would 100% believe that was an Undulata.
But this is 100% Mitrata. Isn't that wild?
Have we bloomed a Mitrata? Who's that from? I don't remember who that's from. It's Italian pencil, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, it says.
No, it's obviously a much shorter, fatter leaf than our undulata clone.
This has been cut before.
But I'm saying
yeah.
it's a wide, like this leaf here. That looks more Matrata-like to me.
Yeah.
But
they all
this
have
leaf
that
does
ruffly
not.
edge, that splash, that
Yeah.
iridescence. They look undulata.
I don't remember who we
Big
bought
time.
that from.
Isn't that gorgeous?
It's beautiful. Like I said, now that once you've seen it, would you tell yourself, "Oh, I've already got one. I don't need that one"?
Right? No, you need the wavy leaf one as well.
Absolutely, you would not. So
You guys want to see some more Matratas? I'll show some more Matratas. I got a bunch.
I see a new plant for my wish list. Yeah, yeah. So it's just I find it so fascinating. Every time I see a different one, I'm like, okay, I have to do that too. I don't even tell myself I already have it. That's fantastic. Keel needs to cut it for you. Okay, I'll tell him. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun for me to collect these things and say, you know, what can I get? What can I have at my house? At the same time, I also like hearing the science behind it and saying, you know, what does it ultimately mean in the end? If I look at all of them and say, this one is this and this one is that, I would still find it really fun. If someone were like, let's do a genetic sample on all of your collection to see what we actually had, I would 100% sign up for that. Oh, just a few Matratas, huh?
This one also looks a little bit.
See, that looks more like the cross, right? Like the middle of the spectrum between undulata and Matrata to me.
Yeah. And now this is full on
That's
Matrata as hell.
Yeah. Right? Like that
and
is
like not a little bit. This is full on.
Yeah. That has
Big.
much rounder, that thick, like almost like a shell leaf.
And now this is a totally different cultivar of Matrata also.
Yeah.
Also unspecified, but much broader in the leaf.
Mm-hmm.
Much bigger, much thicker.
Yeah, these are harder, like almost Sarawak thickness or something. Yeah.
There's a good reason why I love this plant.
But
it's just gorgeous.
That's just wild to me that you know, this plant and this plant are supposed to be the same.
Right? How's that connect?
How?
Yeah.
How?
When we're talking science, how's that supposed to jive?
No, we've made the reference before, like Chihuahuas and Great Danes, genetically the same, but they can do, you know, very different things. So I realize that a lot of that is breeding, is expression of different genes.
Yeah. It's just hard
But
to
if you
understand
found those
how
both in the
different.
wild, you wouldn't classify them as the same plant.
Based on the looks, I would say absolutely not. They have so many different characteristics to the leaf shape and the size of the vine and the way that it's growing. I would say that they're definitely acting very differently.
Which makes you realize, like, you know, when these things are being harvested in the wild, when they're first coming into circulation right now, oftentimes it's before science has ever studied them. So is it possible that someone harvested this clone and said this looks like Matrata because that was their experience with Matrata, put it up as Matrata, it started circulating it around all the collectors that way, and all this time it's undulata. What does a Hoya Matrata flower look like? Let's find out.
I don't know what it looks like. I've not seen any of them flower. For as many as I have.
Oh, it's pretty different than an undulata flower. That would be easy to tell apart. So I guess we're going to have to wait until that one flowers.
Yeah, because
So
that does not look undulata.
Does not at all look like an undulata flower.
So that would be a very important characteristic, and that's why they say you have to flower your plants, because they can look very similar in the leaf. When you flower it, it tells a different story, and then it's another piece of the puzzle that helps you to understand.
If this thing flowers like that, I'll pay you $50. I would 100% think that's an undulata.
It totally looks like it, doesn't it? That's what's wild about it. It's a very beautiful Matrata. It's very unique. As several others that I have are also very unique Matrata. So I think it's very cool.
The ethical question then comes in. You know, that plant was sold to us as Hoya Matrata. by a grower that we respect. We don't buy from anybody that we wouldn't.
Right.
So the right thing to do is to sell it with that name. But I would feel really like that's not a, how do you label that exactly? That says Hoya undulata or Hoya vitrata question mark?
I say Hoya vitrata, parentheses, wavy margin.
Wavy margin, okay.
And that way you differentiate that from your other clones. Yeah. But it's a parentheses, and that's merely a descriptor then. And that way people understand you are describing the plant that you have, and you are trying to give the most accurate description so that people have already bought your smooth leaf or large leaf. They don't want to buy another of the same one, but this has a different distinction, and therefore, in your mind, there's a distinction between the two plants. Obviously, there's a distinction visibly between them when we're looking at it.
Yeah.
You could tell a clone of this from a clone of that without any problem. So you would say, okay, this is the wavy leaf variety that we have, and this cultivar doesn't have the wavy leaves.
Now, you could only do that if you have grown them consistently in different locations and it's held that characteristic too, right? Like if you grew this wavy one in lower light, let's say, and it suddenly got big and smooth like that, then I would be like, oh, that is Matrata,
Or that the wavy leaf or smooth leaf isn't necessarily one of their expressive characteristics, and that's just a recessive gene that might express or might not. That's the thing about genetics is it's not as cut and dry as it seems like it should be sometimes, and genes might be present but not expressed. And so that I think that's what happens with some of these Matratas is you have a wide range of expression of genes, whereas the genetics is probably exactly the same, and undulata and Matrata might actually be part of the same genetic pool. However, the expression can be quite drastically different, and what's being circulated or what is collected as Matrata is just a different expression of the same gene,
Parentheses are over here doing the Lord's work.
They really are.
Trying to describe everything.
They really are. And honestly, I feel like that's a way to look at what you're buying too, and understand what's being said by what's not being said.
Yeah.
Understand what is understood and what is not understood by what's being said. I'm telling you as accurate as I know where this plant came from, but that does show the weakness in our understanding of where these plants came from.
Well, and also taking the species, the signifiers that you see and saying, what can I take from that? You can look at a species like Ganungadang, right? Hoya species, Ganungadang. People tend to think of that as a species, but what that is a Hoya species no ID from Ganungadang. We haven't identified it yet because no one has studied it, published a study saying this is all its features. If they did, it is very likely it would be a Hoya calistophylla.
It's possible. It's quite possible.
It blooms very similarly. It has very similar venation. Is a clone that has a very distinct venation versus some other calistophyllas, but
it may not be genetically different.
Yeah,
you're right. It may be very similar, if not completely similar, genetically.
But I think some Hoya growers, especially when you're early in collecting, can get so caught up in having a bunch of different names that they feel like they have to buy all of them instead of buying what they actually enjoy or what they like,
Yeah, I feel like for us it was always a passion of, I love this leaf, I think it's so beautiful, I gotta have it, I think I could grow that really nicely and I want to try. For me it was always being driven by the beauty of the leaves and how they look. Down the road, it became an issue of, oh, look how beautiful those flowers are. I have a chance of growing out this plant, and hopefully we'll get some flowers off of it, and that would be really cool, because look at those beautiful flowers. Some of them it's panned out, some of them not so much. It's kind of fickle with that. I don't have a recipe to make all your Hoyas flower. I know that under our circumstances, with bright light and high fertilization, we get a pretty high success rate. We have a lot of flowers all the time. We have something in flower and sometimes multiple things in flower. We don't have a lot of pollinators flying around in our grow space because it is captive, and I do treat for pests to keep, household pests at bay. So there is some preventative things that might prevent those Hoyas from naturally crossing in our environment. But if they were to have free reign, if there were insects flying around in there, they might actually be making wild crosses because of the collection of plants we have grouped together. And that would be interesting. I think that's something that a lot of Hoya growers underestimate, is that some of these Hoyas they've amassed have come from all over the globe, and they've never had a chance to meet before. And now they might have a chance to meet, and they might make very beautiful babies. So who knows what those random seed pods that you might have growing in your collection or something like that, what they might yield.
Yeah, if you remember to water them. Okay, well, I think that was a deep dive into a deep hole of, Hoya genetics and cultivation.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. I don't know.
I have interest, and I have tried.
Caleb has tried significantly.
But it is more difficult than they make it sound, and I've not been successful. So I continue to try. When I find that, often you'll have blooms that are of grossly different size, and pollinaria and flowers, they need to sort of, like, it's a lock and key situation. They need to be of similar shape and size of flower, or they don't necessarily want to mesh up. And so, like, as far as I understand it, it's difficult to cross a large flower with a small flower. And so, like, having the right flowers blooming at any given time is difficult. And when I have tried that, I've been unsuccessul so far. Yeah,
it's relevant to this discussion that we're having tonight, because it in my understanding, Hoya in the same section, like Centrostemma or Serpents Complex, are much easier to hybridize together than Hoya from different sections.
Yeah, having a different flower, having a different shape of flower, different size of flower might well be an inhibiting factor. Whereas almost all carnoses that I've ever seen flower have a flower about the size of a nickel, and the pollinaria is going to be a very similar size. So that's why they so readily cross with one another.
Hoya, like Pubicalix, Carnosa, fungi, all those are all the same Hoya subsection Hoya that are easy to cross with each other, right? So if you're going to try hybridizing, I've done mild research into this. I would definitely recommend starting with 2 species in the same section.
Yeah, well, our fungi won't stop flowering.
Yeah.
That thing is profuse. So that would be a really good candidate, because it's almost always giving flowers.
Yeah.
And that's something that is good to work with. Now, if you have your something else flowering at the similar time or whatever, and you can do your pollination, maybe, just maybe, you have a chance. But again, I have tried, and I continue to try. I'm not done trying, but I've so far been unsuccessful at getting it to pollinate. So it's one of those things that we've seen a lot of really cool flowers flowering. I just don't know enough about it to do it properly, so I got to learn more.
I fully just don't have the eyesight to do it. I know that about myself. So
believe me, I'm putting on glasses and assisted vision stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still, like, I've yet to be able to execute.
I haven't figured out how you do it on a microscope. Oh, thank you. How you do it on a microscope while it's still attached to the plant. Just haven't racked my head around how you do that. But that's a whole other reason. Maybe we'll talk about that next time in this weird rabbit hole that we're creating.
Yeah.
But the point of this whole conversation is to kind of emphasize that the Hoya genus is still weird and complex and evolving and not very well defined. And that kind of makes it fun. We're all out here in the Wild West together, figuring it out, making new things.
And it's not getting any less weird with all of the people who are successful at hybridizing. I think some people are more successful at it than me. But the thing is that they're creating all kinds of really cool and interesting, cool hybrids for us to collect and learn about. When I started this hobby, when we started getting into Hoyas, there may have been, 400 species available? There's probably 3 times that now. Based on the hybridization that's gone on, and just in this short amount of time, the number of species that are available is just
wildly bigger.
It's through the roof. It's astronomical, the amount of Hoyas that you can collect. I'm not suggesting that you should, But I'm saying
I'm gonna try.
there are that many available.
Every day, yeah.
It's really cool.
Every time Rick posts, I'm like, dang it, there's another one I've never heard of.
Any easier to classify these guys.
Yeah.
Because we're definitely making them faster than science can classify them by leaps and bounds these days.
Yeah, so let's all be grateful that we're on the hobby side, not the science side.
Yeah, because imagine how buried you would feel.
Oh, man.
When they're like, oh, 25 new species came out today, and last year we classified 4.
There's an
that's
April.
frustrating work.
Is it named after April?
Oh, really?
No, yeah. I mean, now, Hoya has been prolific in the amount of hybrids they've been able to put out.
They know the secret.
Clearly know the secret.
Rick knows the secret.
Yeah.
There are those. There are people who are hybridizing and they are making a lot of really cool hybrids. They have the skills and they have the technique. I'm not saying it can't be done because it 100% can. I've not been successful. I don't know the
I bet you could be. See, I think that the thing is that none of us have to be a expert in every part of Hoya.
Yeah.
I think we should all just pick a little piece, and if we stay together as a community, then we'll have all the knowledge.
It's my own personal theory, but I believe that's why Rick is selling seeds to people rather than trying to grow out and bring cultivars to the market. He did a lot of that. He has brought a lot of cool cultivars to the market. However, now he's selling tons and tons of seeds and letting other people share in that cool experience of selection and potentially bringing a cultivar to the market and having that ability to grow out a seedling and have a unique plant that's a cool thing. And I think that's kind of cool that he's allowing for people to take the seeds that he's cultivated and grown and made them into seeds. Now here, you guys grow them out and see what happens. Here's 10, here's 10, here's 10. Selling seeds like that, it allows a different aspect of the hobby. Now it does create a ton of different
it's always
plants
been
out there.
Like that is good practice when you're hybridizing Hoyas, is that you send seeds to many different grow environments to see can it hold the characteristic across them. If you sent the wavy leaf Matrata to a house in New York and a house in Arizona that's getting 8 times the amount of light, then you try, does it hold that wavy margin or not? And that's how you kind of determine if a hybrid should be named and continue to be cultivated, is if it can hold its defining characteristic across many grow spaces. I know, right? Oh, in an instant, if I could, I would go on one of Rick's trips to Thailand.
Oh man, wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, I know that Alexis has done it. I know that Casita and Mia, those guys have done it. Like that just, I don't think I could be any happier. Jen's gone? Really? I didn't realize I had to ask her. Yeah, they go on trips to like Thailand, Thailand, I think, and
trying to discover species and stuff.
She was
like that.
pregnant when she did it. Way to go, Jen.
Wow.
Yeah, I have talked with Alexis, and she's still working out the details. But I really want Alexis to come on. I've asked her if she would come on and chat with us one time about that experience of going overseas and seeing these things growing in the wild and visiting the nurseries over there.
Hoya Safari.
Yeah, it would be so cool. Yeah. So Alexis is trying to work out her Wi-Fi issues in her greenhouse in order to do that with us, but hopefully she'll be able to do that soon.
Yeah, if she could share her experience.
So I would just love to hear the stories about it, right? Yeah. So
it's exciting, right? That's a new avenue that none of us have traveled. It would be interesting to hear what happened when you did. So I think that would be really cool.
Could you
if we
imagine?
can work that out.
What if we could go on one of those trips and we could live stream the whole thing?
Good luck. In Thailand, you would probably have sketchy Wi-Fi.
I don't know. I've seen Rick post pretty regularly, right? Oh my god, I would die.
Yeah, you could probably film a lot of cool stuff.
Like, guys, look at this. Guys, look at this. Guys, look at this. The whole time.
And you could show a lot of cool things afterwards. But I think you'd probably have a difficult time getting it to stream from there. Something tells me you would struggle.
Yeah, I would really enjoy it. We are not traveling people. Let's be very clear on that. We don't go far. Like 2 hours north of here is like, oh my gosh, we've gone a ways from home.
Yeah.
So being on the other side of the planet would be weird for us, for sure.
For sure.
But I would still do it. Okay. Anyway, point of tonight is Hoyas are weird. Hoyas are cool. I hope that you love Hoyas.
We've come a long way
Talking
from
about
the point
Hoyas
of
as much as we,
tonight,
yeah.
but yes. The point
The point was, I thought it was a really interesting article.
Yeah,
I
agree.
hope that you guys did too. If you don't yet, go follow the STEMMA Journal Facebook group. Deep dive into a lot of their older articles. If there's an article that you guys really want to deep dive with us into, then let me know and we'll bring it up in one of these chats and we can kind of talk about it more together. I have it scheduled 2 weeks from tonight. I want to go to space once we're about Thailand.
Yeah, right.
Good point.
True.
I think that is a very good point. Thank you, Ma. What else we got? Okay, so tomorrow, Friday, this is a week that we have a purge. So if you are interested in seeing some more of our plants, you can find those over on Palm Street. There's a sneak peek back there.
Oh, sneaky.
Caleb has 3 trays of plants that have never been shown before. There's some species that we've sold before, but these specific plants you've never seen before.
All new.
All up for sale tomorrow in the purge. That'll be on Palm Street.
Yes.
We'll be back on Sunday morning for our normal live show. We'll be back here on our website on 2 weeks from tonight for another Hoya study group. I will determine the subject of that and announce it at some point.
TBD.
I think we should talk about hybridization if I can figure out more about it. Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe. Yeah.
But thanks for letting us do this with you guys. We
Yeah,
appreciate you
it's a lot of
joining us and just letting us nerd out for a little bit. Anything else?
I think that was it.
Okay. We hope you guys have a great night.
Yeah.
We'll see you on Sunday morning.
Have an excellent evening.
Bye.